Today I will be talking to Samir Mourani and Maariam Hamaoui to talk more about humanitarian initiatives that are taken by Arab Canadians. Let's take a look. Hello Maariam and Samir.
Hi.
Welcome to Being Canadians.
Thank you.
I would like to start with having you introduce yourselves.
So my name is
Let's
Maariam.
start with Maariam. Ladies first.
My name is Maariam Hamaoui and I'm a co-founder of RefugeAid. I'm also an Arab Canadian from both Lebanon and Syria.
And my name is Samir Mourani. I'm one of the other co-founders of RefugeAid and I'm from Lebanon.
Perfect. So who made up the idea of RefugeAid? It was Samir. Okay. Can you tell me more about the mission of RefugeAid?
Yeah, it's just like our slogan says, it's to overcome adversity and rebuild communities. We always found that there's a lot of adversity in taking that first step after an area has been devastated by war, famine, you name it. And as a result, the first step of overcoming that adversity in order to rebuild that community is always, like I said, the hardest one. And so what we try to do is reach out to provide some sort of assistance in any way possible. And mind you, we're just a grassroots movement, but we try to do our part to at least help people get that first step.
Yeah, and do you have a certain logo or something that you use for this?
I'm sorry?
Like a certain saying that you use or something?
Yeah,
what
the
is it?
overcome adversity to rebuild communities.
Ooh,
yeah.
That sounds good. Full of energy, good energy.
Well, we tried to, how long did we spend on coming up
It
with
was
that?
a long time.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest part, is to sort of find that in one catchy slogan.
It takes time.
Yeah.
All right, can you tell me please about how it first started? From where did it start?
So 2012, yeah. So I was volunteering with an organization called the Mosaic Institute. It's a think and do tank right here from Toronto. So shout out to the Mosaic Institute. Basically, they were running a community service project. And the intention was just to get students from different backgrounds to come together and do something for the community and do it for a few months, and that was it. And the idea was we'll work with Doctors Without Borders or Médecins Sans Frontières, and once that was done, you go from there. So that's where the idea sort of came from, and then I was brought on board, and then Maariam came on board, and we sort of said, okay, well, let's focus on what matters to us, and that was trying to resolve or trying to help people, because we've always talked about wanting to do that. Everybody talks about, I want to do this, I want to go help, I want to, but it's all talk. But then it was like, how do we actually put this into motion? How do we take that first step? How do we overcome that adversity?
We need more of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our plan wasn't like, let's do that and then take all the credit, step back and walk away from it. It was, how can we do that in a manner where more people would get involved and more people would further this cause? And it doesn't just have to be this, it could be anything, but just take that first step. And so our goal at the beginning was to raise $10,000. And
you did more than that?
Yeah.
$12,000?
$12,000, yeah. We were really happy about that. And the response was just fantastic. It was enormous. There was response from all parts of the GTA. Everybody wanted to get involved. They finally saw a grassroots movement where it wasn't some big NGO that you had to sign up for and work, 9 to 5 or volunteer on a Sunday afternoon. It was whatever time you can contribute, that was your donation back to society. And so to date, 4 years later, we've raised just over $50,000. Yeah, it was really amazing because
feels good, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, and it's only because we didn't rely on any big companies or anything like that to provide us with funds. It was always what this student can give. Here's $1. Like we have this model where we originally went to York University.
Yeah.
And
Yay,
there
that's
was,
where I go to.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. So there's a lot of students at York. So our intention was, if every single student at York University donated just $1, think about how much we could raise.
Yeah, true.
So that's sort of the mentality that that was the mentality we went through day in and day out. We don't need somebody to contribute $10. We don't need somebody to contribute $20. Just give us $1. And we'll make that dollar work.
Yeah, wow. Sounds great. I'm inspired already.
Get involved.
I will, definitely. Okay, so in which ways does the Arab Canadian community contribute in such organizations? I did already read that you guys don't only work with Arab refugees, but worldwide. But in which ways do Arab Canadian community contribute specifically in these organizations?
I was one of the co-founders of the Middle Eastern Students Association at York, and from MISA, RefugeAid grew because so many of the members in MISA loved RefugeAid, and then we took that on as one of our large projects of MISA, and then we created the organization out of that. And so a lot of people in the Middle Eastern community commuted because they loved the project as much as we did, and the cause just became so big. And as you can see now, that it helps so much, especially because now it's a more of a worldwide thing, and more awareness has been targeted for refugees. Because even though we do focus now on Syrian refugees, we do spread awareness about refugees worldwide.
Okay, perfect. So how does RefugeAid and similar organizations specifically serve the Canadian community or society?
Well, basically, the intention at first was, how do we get the Middle Eastern community involved in giving back? But
to the Canadian society?
Well, first the project was, how can we raise money and assist refugees?
Okay.
And then we realized right away that there's this fascinating thing about how there was, Canadian society is made up of every culture on the planet.
Yes, it's a multicultural country.
Yeah.
And a lot of the cultures related. And so you didn't have to be from the Middle East. You could have been from somewhere in Asia. You could have been from somewhere in Europe, right? You could have been from North America. You could have been from Latin America. But everybody had their own relation to the project in some way, and they all wanted to contribute. And so we found that what it was actually doing was not just raising money, but it was actually bringing together different communities to, partner up on collaborative events, different religious organizations, like people of different faiths coming together. It was very fascinating things to just sit back and go, wow, this is, bigger than we could have imagined.
We actually had an event, well, Samir mainly organized this one where it was...
She helped.
She
was part of it.
Is it one of your greatest accomplishments? Because I was going to ask about that.
Well, I would say
that.
Greatest accomplishment in a sense where it's uniting different religious communities together. So we had both like the Muslim Sunni community, Muslim Shia community, and we had it was a Christian community.
There was
as
a Christian
well.
community, and we had.
That's nice.
Yeah,
we
it
had
was a fundraising dinner.
When was that?
And
this was
2 years ago, I think.
No, a little bit more. It was held at the University of Toronto.
Oh, okay.
But the intention was to have an interfaith dinner because at the time the Syrian civil war was just mainly political factions.
Yeah.
And then it started getting to the point where it was broken down amongst religious sects, and that's where things got unpleasant. And so we thought, why not host an interfaith dinner where we all raise money, and there isn't, the money's only going to Christian refugees or Muslim refugees. It's going to refugees, period. Doesn't matter. Male, female, child.
Any political
Doesn't matter what your political view was. It was just, if you're a refugee, if you're somebody in need, and everybody can relate to that. Again, for one night, come and break bread with one another, and let's raise some money for a great cause. And it turned out to be very
great
successful.
event.
Okay. Everything is always a surprise by the time we actually get to it. We're all stressed out. How do we do it? And how do we get it to work? And then by the end of the night, we're like, that went well.
That's good. Can you tell me more about the collaboration between RefugeAid and other similar organizations that are Canadian?
I guess a lot of, even especially this year, we've made, as actually part of, as well, co-founding the Syria Response and Refugee Initiative at York University. And so we made a lot of collaborations with them. That was with Osgoode Hall Law School and as well the Center of Refugee Studies. We worked with different groups such as WUSC, World University Service Canada, as well as, I'm trying to remember another refugee, Amnesty, and as well as the Refugee Student Caucus at York as well. So a lot more refugee awareness was built. But also more awareness brought more awareness to York was this is the third year we've had a mock refugee tent. And so we brought a lot more awareness as to refugee issues, immigrant issues, etc. And so that also brought a lot more refugee awareness groups together, which is great.
Yeah. So as you were speaking now, you did mention refugee awareness a lot.
Yeah.
So can you please tell me more in detail about it? How exactly is it spread, and what does it mean to spread this type of awareness?
Yeah, well, from York, we've definitely spread a lot of awareness in terms of having the mock refugee tent at York, having awareness campaigns. Last year we even had, we paired up with a student group, Students for Syria, and they helped. What they did was they wore like t-shirts and shorts outside, and it was Keep Us Warm. That was called Keep Us Warm campaign.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people donated because they wanted.
And you need it in this country with this weather.
Yeah, and it was in February
Middle of April
time.
and still snowing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like it was around February time too. So like imagine how cold it was then.
Yeah.
And so it was a YouTube video that was streamed live, and so we raised a lot of donations because of that. So it was one of the girls, Maariam, she was like really great with helping us with that, as well as we opened a new chapter at McMaster for RefugeAid. So that's another success of ours, which I'm really happy about, and hoping for maybe next year we can have one at McGill. So we're trying to spread that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how does that type of awareness, or spreading that awareness, help the Canadian community and the Arab Canadian community coexist?
Well, a lot of times when the Canadian community as a whole, and like I mentioned earlier, it's a mix of different cultures. It's a very top-down approach as far as where they're getting their information from. Right? They're getting a lot of their information either from directly from the news or from the provincial or federal government. That's how they're obtaining everything.
Yeah.
What we've tried to do is take a polar opposite approach and come from the bottom up by saying, you know, this is affecting members of your community, right? Because while yes, we are part of the Middle Eastern community, the Middle Eastern community is comprised of the greater Canadian community. And so if one part of the Canadian community is affected, that affects every other part. And so by doing all of this, it's actually helped raise a lot more awareness on the issues at hand, not just by hearing it from the news, but talking one-on-one, right? The more we educate people on what's actually happening, the more those people then turn around and tell their friends and their families, and then word of mouth is still the fastest way of spreading messaging.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for being here with me today. It was great talking to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. It was Being Canadians with Maariam.